Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Ramya and with me is Abhineet Shukla, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines: India wins 4 gold medals at Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, moves to the 4th place in medal tally. Indian civil aviation industry becomes the second fastest growing aviation industry in the world. Boost to Indo-US strategic partnership. A US Navy ship for the first time arrives for repair in India. Sri Lanka asks China to put on hold the visit of its spy vessel at Hambantota port. Taiwan says China was rehearsing for attack. United States accuses Beijing of provocative and irresponsible actions. China imposes strict COVID restrictions in its tourist hub Sanya, forcing 80,000 tourists stranded. Israel killed second top militant of Palestinian Islamic Jihad group. Death toll rises to 31. Talks underway for ceasefire. And in cricket, final match of T20 series between India and West Indies underway at Lauderhill in Florida. At the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, India added 4 gold medals to its tally on Sunday. 3 yellow medals came in the boxing, with Amit Panghal winning the 51-kilogram men's event, Neetu Ganghas conquering the women's 48-kilogram final bout, and Nikhat Zareen won in the 50-kilogram category. Nikhat's medal was the 4th gold of the day and 17th overall in Birmingham. India also leapfrogged New Zealand in the medals tally to the 4th position. With this, India's overall medals tally has risen to 49, including 17 gold, 13 silver and 19 bronze medals. Earlier, India's 3rd gold came in the men's triple jump, where Indians finished at first 2 positions, winning both gold and silver. In table tennis, Indian pair of Ajant Sharat Kamal and Satyan Gnanasekaran won silver in men's doubles as they lost to Paul Drinkhall and Liam Pitchford of England in the final. In the men's 10-kilometer race walk, Sandeep Kumar won bronze for India. In women's javelin throw, Annu Rani bagged a bronze medal with a throw of 60 meters. In badminton, at least 2 silver medals have been assured for India in both men's and women's singles category, as PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen have won their respective semi-final matches today. However, it was a hard break for Kidambi Srikanth, who lost in the singles semi-final today. In women's hockey, India defeated New Zealand 2-1 in penalty shootout to win the bronze medal. India is seeing for the first time the democratization of civil aviation. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia said this while speaking at the flagging off function of India's new airline services, Aksa Air, on Sunday. He said it is with the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi that India is first time seeing the democratization of civil aviation, where even the common man can afford to travel in airlines. The minister said Indian civil aviation industry is 3rd largest in the world and the 2nd fastest growing aviation industry in the world. In the last 8 years, India has seen 425 new routes and is planning to start 1,000 routes. The number of airports will go up to 100 from 68 airports. Mr. Scindia said civil aviation is a high-potential investment sector with 3 times growth and has the potential to generate heavy direct and indirect employment.
Adding a new dimension to the burgeoning Indo-US strategic partnership, US Navy ship Charles II arrived at the L&T's shipyard at Kattupalli, Chennai in southern state of Tamil Nadu on Sunday for undertaking repairs and allied services. This is the first ever repair of a US Navy ship in India. This will give a huge boost to Make in India and Atmanirbharta in defense sector. The US Navy ship will stay for a period of 11 days to undergo repairs. The Ministry of Defense in a statement said that the US Navy had awarded a contract to L&T's shipyard for undertaking maintenance of the ship. The event signifies the capabilities of Indian shipyards in the global ship repairing market. Indian shipyards offer wide-ranging and cost-effective ship repair and maintenance services using advanced maritime technology platforms. Terming the event as a red letter day for the Indian shipbuilding industry and the Indo-US defense relationship, Defense Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar said, India is indeed pleased to welcome US naval ship USNS Charles II for making her voyage ready. He said, India's initiative also assumes special significance in furthering the strategic partnership between India and the United States. It marks the beginning of a new chapter for deeper engagements. Dr. Kumar said that Indian defence exports have seen a massive increase in the last 4 to 5 years. He said the exports, which were worth about 1,500 crore rupees in 2015-16, have now grown by 800% to around 13,000 crore rupees. Sri Lankan government has asked Chinese government to defer the visit of its spy vessel Yuan Wang 5 at Hambantota port until further consultations are made on the matter. Yuan Wang 5 Chinese spacecraft tracking ship departed from Yangon in China on July the 13th and was expected to dock at the Sri Lankan port from August 11th to 17th for replenishment purposes. The sky vessel employed for space and satellite tracking will conduct satellite control and research tracking in the Indian Ocean region through August and September. India has said it carefully monitors any development having a bearing on its security and economic interests. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said, Indian government is aware of reports of a proposed visit by this vessel to Hambantota in August. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on developments in Sri Lanka. In conversation are Skandaranjan Thayal, former diplomat, and Manish Anand, journalist.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has called upon all the political parties in Sri Lanka to come forward and help in the formation of an all-party government. The development has come after an all-party meeting on Saturday, and there will be another meeting on Tuesday to chalk out the governance model for an all-party. We have with us Ambassador Thayal. We would like to understand from him what is the significance of forming an all-party government, given that since the public protest, the mass protest, since April has subsided off late after the imposition of the emergency, but there hasn't been any positive development on the front of World Bank or the International Monetary Fund in accessing new bailout packages. Ambassador Thayal, how do you see the development?
Sri Lanka is in a difficult political situation, and they attempting to move forward as per the Sri Lankan constitution. And we saw that Ranil Wickremesinghe became acting president and then president elected by the Sri Lankan parliament as per their constitution. But the fact is that at present the Sri Lankan parliament, which is dominated by the Rajapaksa loyalists or their supporters, does not reflect the current public opinion of Sri Lankans. And in their constitution, it is to call another election of the parliament, the process is very complicated. So in this situation where the Sri Lankan parliament really does not reflect the will of the people, it is a parliament which was elected 2-3 years back when the situation was different, and Rajapaksas were supported at that time by the Sri Lankan people. But after these protests from April onwards, and we saw former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he was forced to leave the country. But what we have seen is that the new government which has been sworn in by the new President Ranil Wickremesinghe also has a majority of those who belong to the Rajapaksa family and their party, and they were parts of the earlier cabinet and in many different ways. So this cabinet also does not have the real support and trust and confidence of the people of Sri Lanka, who came out united in very large numbers to throw out the previous dispensation. In their eyes, in many ways, the current president and the current cabinet is kind of continuation of the previous regime which they had tried to throw out. So in this context, it's very important that President Ranil Wickremesinghe's offer to have an all-party government is heeded by all the parties. But the requirement would be that there should be real sharing of power, and because the Sri Lankan people, Sri Lanka economy, Sri Lanka as a country will have to face many economic hardships as they try to reconstruct their economy and recover and come back on financial prudence, and that would require support of all the citizens of Sri Lanka. So it is very much required that when Sri Lanka negotiates with the International Monetary Fund and ADB or IMF or World Bank and other multilateral agencies, and those agencies will put conditionalities which would require that Sri Lanka balances its budget, they reduce their foreign exchange expenditure, and it will have a direct impact on the quality of life of Sri Lankan citizens. So it is better that all the political parties come together and face this period of hardship collectively without fighting with each other.
Mr. Teal, you have rightly said that there is a perception that the current dispensation in Colombo is seen to be a continuation of the previous regime which was led Gotabaya Rajapakse. And a confirmation was for that in a baffling sort of event in which the Chinese spy ship Yuan Wang 5 was supposed to come to Hambantota port for about a week and that was the Sri Lankan government said that the ship would come for refueling purposes, and that too at a time when the people in Sri Lanka don't have access to fuel for their daily lives, and India has extended about $4 billion of credit line to ensure that the life runs normally. Very strange and very baffling. How come Sri Lanka do such a thing that it allows spy ship to come in the Indian Ocean at Hambantota port?
This whole development is very worrying, and it makes that all of India's apprehension about China's entry into Sri Lanka, into Hambantota, are coming true. We in India know very well at every level, at our strategic level, military level, intelligence level, that China's plan is to neutralize India's superiority in the Indian Ocean region by way of our navy, and they are trying very assiduously, the Chinese government are trying very assiduously to cultivate both Sri Lanka and Maldives and wean them away from India's friendship and influence. And what we have seen is very baffling, as you rightly say. The permission for this ship to come was given on 12 July, on the day or one day before President Gotabaya was leaving. He had announced that he will leave presidency. So in that vacuum, somebody in some office, either president's office or some minister, foreign minister, or they gave the permission for this Chinese spy ship to come and for about 6-7 days, starting from 11th of August. But India protested very strongly and at different levels that it is a direct infringement of India's security, because this Yuan Wang ship is a military vessel and it is part of People's Liberation Army Navy's strategic support force. And once if such a ship is allowed to come and berth and stay in Hambantota, then it becomes a precedent. And then again and again the ship will come and India's security will be compromised forever. So it is good that India has taken a very strong stand, and for the time being the Sri Lankan government has responded and they have deferred the coming of the ship, but they have also said that until further consultation. So they have not called off the visit of this ship, because if this comes then Chinese submarines will be next. And again I will say that India has to work on Sri Lankan government along with our friends, whether they are in United States, whether they are in Japan, whether they are in Australia, and clearly tell Sri Lanka that Chinese naval ships should not be allowed to berth or stay for a long time on Sri Lankan ports. So India has taken a good stand, but we must work with our friends of Quad and as well as other friendly countries to send a clear message to Sri Lanka that they have to be very careful and not allow Chinese naval ships, submarines, spy ships to come and use Hambantota port.
And Mr. Teal, another sad part is that while the people in Sri Lanka have been struggling to meet their daily essentials, even the United Nations Food Program has said that about 30 lakh people are in dire needs of immediate humanitarian assistance. We see that China at the max had extended about $73 million of assistance, despite bringing Sri Lanka into a debt trap. Why the Sri Lankan new government isn't waking up to the harsh reality that China is taking them to the bankruptcy already, and there is no way out, no help coming from Beijing.
I think the wisdom is dawning now on the Sri Lankan people as well as the Sri Lankan establishment that Chinese assistance is a poison pill and it will bind them to Sri Lankans to China in a long-term or subordinate position, and they will compromise their sovereignty. But certainly it seems that there are elements both in Sri Lankan political parties as well as in their establishment bureaucracy who are sympathetic to Chinese advances. But it is for Indian agencies to keep a close watch on any further attempts by Chinese Navy to come and berth at Sri Lankan ports. And it is not related to whether China gives even billions of dollars of assistance to Sri Lanka, but even then our security concerns are paramount, and we must tell Sri Lankans very clearly that such an opening of Sri Lankan ports, particularly Hambantota, to Chinese Navy, submarine ships, spy ships, will not be acceptable not only to India but also to their other friends like United States, Japan, Australia, etc. So I will not link it whether China gave, we gave $4 billion assistance to Sri Lanka. Even if China gives $4 billion, but even then they should not be permitted to use Hambantota port for activities which will impinge India's security interests.
Indeed, Sri Lanka must be aware that its waters should not be used for anti-India operations. Ambassador Tyal, you gave a lot of insight to the All India Radio. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
The United States has accused China of provocative and irresponsible actions after Taiwan said China rehearsed an attack on the island. Taiwan said it responded to the Chinese drills, now in their fourth day, by deploying aircraft and ships on Sunday. A White House spokesperson said that these activities are a significant escalation in China's efforts to change the status quo. The spokesperson said they are proactive, irresponsible, and raise the risk of miscalculation. The heightened tensions follow a trip to Taiwan by a U.S. delegation led by senior Democrat Nancy Pelosi. China views the visit as a challenge to its claims of sovereignty over Taiwan, which sees itself as distinct. Taiwan's defense ministry said Chinese ships and planes carried out missions in the Taiwan Strait over the weekend, with some crossing the median line and unofficial buffers separating the two sides. The Taiwan military said it responded appropriately to the live-fire exercises, which it described as a simulated attack on the island. Beijing has not commented on the latest exercises. More than 80,000 tourists have been left stranded in a popular resort in China after a coronavirus outbreak sparked a lockdown. Authorities cancelled all flights and trains from Sanya, known as China's Hawaii, on Saturday, a day after 263 positive cases were confirmed. Travellers must now present 5 negative PCR tests over 7 days before being allowed to leave. China is the only major economy to still follow a zero-COVID policy. The country has recorded fewer than 15,000 deaths since the pandemic began, according to Johns Hopkins University. However, there have been concerns about the impact of the strict rules, including mass testing and local lockdowns on the economy. The restrictions on Sanya, a city on the southern Hainan Island and a popular surfing destination, come during the peak tourist season. Prices of air tickets leaving Sanya have skyrocketed. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates.
Israel has killed a second top militant from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad (PIJ) group as the death toll continues to rise from airstrikes in Gaza. 6 children and several PIJ fighters, including leaders Khalid Mansour and Taysir Jabari, are among the 35 Palestinians reported to have died. Nearly 600 Palestinian rockets and mortars have been fired at Israel since Friday, an Israeli official said. Israel says it launched the operations due to immediate threat from PIJ. The latest violence is the most serious flare-up between Israel and Gaza since an 11-day conflict in May 2021, which left more than 200 Palestinians and a dozen Israelis dead. The Israeli military is warning this latest operation could last for a week. On Sunday, Palestinian rockets fired from the Gaza Strip reached Jerusalem for the first time since the 2021 conflict. Meanwhile, talks are underway between Israel and Palestinian militants for a truce in Gaza from Sunday evening as mediated by Cairo. Islamic Jihad militants and Israel are reported to have agreed a truce brokered by Egypt, but officially talks are still in progress. In Afghanistan, a bomb blast in the capital Kabul killed at least 8 people and injured 22 on Saturday. The blast on a busy shopping street in the western part of the city, a predominantly Shia neighborhood, is the second attack in the past 2 days. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack through its Telegram channel. On Friday, at least 8 people were killed and 18 injured in a blast in Kabul.
The scheduled arrival of the first grain ship from Ukraine to Lebanon under a deal has been delayed. This has been informed by a Lebanese cabinet minister and the Ukraine embassy. The cause of the delay was not immediately clear, and marine traffic, which monitors vessel traffic and the locations of ships at sea, showed the Sierra Leone flagged Razoni at anchor in the Mediterranean Sea near Turkey. Lebanon's transportation minister Al-Hamid tweeted the ship that was supposed to reach Tripoli port in Lebanon changed its status. The ship left Odessa last Monday, carrying Ukrainian corn, and later passed inspection in Turkey. It was supposed to arrive in the northern port of Tripoli at about 10 a.m. Sunday. The Ukrainian embassy in Beirut said the arrival of the ship has been postponed. The passage of the vessel was the first under a breakthrough deal brokered by Turkey and the United Nations with Russia and Ukraine. On Friday, 3 more ships carrying thousands of tons of corn left Ukrainian ports. 4 more ships carrying agricultural cargo held up by the war in Ukraine received authorization on Sunday to leave the country's Black Sea ports. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has raised grave concern about shelling at a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. In a statement, IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi said the Ukraine-Russia conflict has settled into a war of attrition. He also said the fighting over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in the south, captured by Russian forces in the opening stage of the war but still run by Ukrainian technicians, has raised the prospect of a wider disaster.
In Mexico, 10 miners have been trapped underground for more than 3 days in Coahuila. More than 300 soldiers and other personnel have joined the rescue effort, including 6 divers from Mexican Special Forces. The Labor Ministry said that coal mine opened in January and had no record of complaints for any type of abnormality. A fire set off by a lightning strike at an oil storage facility raged uncontrolled in the Cuban city of Matanzas. 4 explosions and flames injured 121 people and left 17 firefighters missing. Cuban authorities said an unidentified body had been found late Saturday. The Ministry of Energy and Mines tweeted that firefighters and other specialists were still trying to quell the blaze at the Matanzas supertanker base, where the fire began during a thunderstorm Friday night.
International Telecommunication Union's Regional Standardization Forum for Asia and Oceania region will begin in New Delhi from Monday. Communications Ministry will host the forum on the theme of regulatory and policy aspects of telecommunications. Minister of State for Communications, Devasan Chauhan, will inaugurate the Regional Standardization Forum. The ministry said that over 250 delegates from 20 countries will participate in the forum. Indian Space Research Organisation Chairman S. Somnath has said that the maiden launch of the Small Satellite Launch Vehicle SSLV failed to place the satellites in the intended orbit due to sensor anomaly. SSLV D1 EOS-02 launched from Sriharikota launch pad had placed the satellites into 365 km into 76 km elliptical orbit instead of 356 km circular orbit, due to which the 2 satellites remained unstable and are no longer usable.
And in our special segment Popuri, today it is the turn of Rabindra Sangeet, which is synonymous with the creative genius of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. For him, the art was the bridge that connected the individual with the world. Here is a glimpse of Rabindra Sangeet for our listeners. Tagore was a polymath who worked as a poet, writer, playwright, composer, philosopher, social reformer and painter. In 1913, he became the first Indian to receive a Nobel Prize in Literature for his novel Gitanjali. He also wrote the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. He left his imprint on art and played a role in transforming its practices and ushering into modernism. His work of art were first exhibited in Paris in 1930 and then across Europe and America. His song Ekla Chalo Re reverberates in the memory of millions even today.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনি কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনি কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনি কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনি কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
Gurudev Rabindra Tagore breathed his last on this very day at the age of 80 years in 1941. India is celebrating 75 years of its independence this year, and the year-long festivities will be reaching its peak on 15th of this month. A host of activities including the hoisting of national tricolor flag at every household have been planned. Bike rallies, bicycle rallies, walks with the tricolor are among other additions. Artists and celebrities have joined hands to lift the spirit of the occasion. Renowned singer Sonu Nigam has rendered a song showcasing the patriotic fervor.
अमृत काल मनाएंगे घर घर तिरंगा लहराएंगे घर घर तिरंगा हर घर तिरंगा.
A London museum has agreed to return to Nigeria artifacts looted in the 19th century from the Kingdom of Benin. The Horniman Museum said ownership of 72 objects would be transferred to the Nigerian government. Items include 12 brass plaques known as Benin bronzes and a key to the King's Palace.
In cricket, chasing the target of 189 runs set by India, West Indies were 59 for 4 in 9 overs in Lauderhill, Florida, United States. Earlier, India won the toss and opted to bat first. Batting first, Shreyas Iyer hit a brilliant 64 to guide India to 188 for 7 against West Indies in the 5th and final T20 International. Iyer anchored India's innings while Deepak Hooda and Hardik Pandya also played cameos of 38 and 28 respectively. With the series already in the bag, Rohit Sharma and Bhuvneshwar Kumar were rested to test their bench strength ahead of the Asia Cup, which starts later this month. India lead the series 3-1 after Rishabh Pant and the bowlers fired the team to comprehensive win. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes that European officials are pessimistic about a reset in post-Brexit relations with the UK, whoever becomes Britain's next Prime Minister in September. The Financial Times reports that alarm mounts in Western capitals over Turkey's deepening ties with Russia. The Globe and the Mail notes that US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in South Africa on Africa tour. South China Morning Post says Chinese relief pledge for Zambia may set example for the other indebted African nations. The Washington Post writes US Senate inches towards passage of Inflation Reduction Act amid marathon debate. The Wall Street Journal writes Ukraine's drone spotters on front lines wage new kind of war.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. India wins 4 gold medals at Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, moves to 4th place in medals tally. Indian civil aviation industry becomes the second fastest growing aviation industry in the world. Boost to Indo-US strategic partnership, a US Navy ship for the first time arrives for repair in India. Sri Lanka asks China to put on hold the visit of its spy vessel at Hambantota port. Taiwan says China was preparing for attack. United States accuses Beijing of provocative and irresponsible actions. China imposes strict COVID restrictions in its tourist hub Sanya, forcing 80,000 tourists stranded. Israel kills second top militant of Palestinian Islamic Jihadi group. Death toll rises to 31. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Switzerland. With that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.